So thanks, Bram, for the introduction and for the first words. So indeed, I'm one of the co-founders of Universem, and when we look a bit of the team today, it's a real pleasure to see it, how it's evolving. And today, if we look at the team, it's really what is really so important when you think about digital marketing. It's the great team of experts with different passions, and mine is to cook after the work every night, to cook and to prepare some meals for the family. So always a nice moment with my 2 knives just to cook. So maybe an easy question to start: who are the cooking enthusiasts here in the room, so that we can maybe discuss it during the break. Okay, and maybe a more tricky question: what's the link between SEO and cooking you could imagine? Cookies could be a good one, and it will be the link with Sam Talk at the end of the afternoon. We will find out some other elements and some good acronyms from the Google team and for what we see and so on. A nice challenge to do this talk, and I said, okay, why not mixing both of them while preparing this meeting. I will start with some, I would say, introduction about SEO, and soon after go for the trends of 2022. So if we look at the SEO standard guide from Google, this is the definition they gave. Really simple to try to have a better visibility in search engines. It's the official definition, I would say, but we can do more. And if we take other glasses, what we believe here is really how to produce the right content for the right audience and squeeze Google to your own interest. So that's really important. And the idea is not to produce as many content, but to have many visits. What we need is to have the right visits, the qualified visitors that will convert for your business. And goal also is to squeeze Google, not be squeezed by Google. Huh? They can also do it a lot. And if we think about the right audience, it's really who are your persona, what are their interests, what are the content or the services we could propose them. And Google Analytics could be a good source of information because you have a full category about audience, and you can have some interest, some in-market segment. And if we look here, the data from Universem website, apparently some people are looking for SEO and some services. So I think it's the right way to go and quite interesting from Google data. So think about who are your people, and then which content should I produce. And that, for sure, at Universem, we'll always try to start with a good semantic analysis here for Delvo, where we'll see what are the keywords that people are typing in Google, really what's the difficulty to rank on them, what's the seasonality as well, and clearly it helps us to focus on the right topics to cover on your website, on your blog, and so on. And thinking about that, search intent, what's the intent behind the queries that you could have, and think about the full customer journey of your persona, from inspiration, some already up in the funnel or high in the funnel to have those first questions, and after the consideration, the conversion, but also some queries they could type while they are really already a customer, and so that you can, with the right content, support, help your support to have less questions. So once you have this, I would say the right content, the right audience, I would say it's the easy part. What is more challenging is to squeeze Google. Not an easy question, but a great challenge. And when we think about this, it's really start from what Google likes. It helps to define your priorities. Is it salty, sharp, sweet? I think at the end what Google likes is to have a great user experience. So how can they satisfy their users so that they come again and again on their website, and they try to improve it, and with AI, artificial intelligence or machine learning, you will hear quite some on that in the coming minutes. they try to create this unique experience so that you have the interesting content based on the intention of the users for any query, and also this experience that will be personalized based on your context. So that's really important, but also Google will think about their own interest at some time as well. But when we see the results they published yesterday, just 39 billion revenues from search ads, so linked to SEO, but the campaigns close to it, just for the last quarter, you say, okay, it's a good business to be in. So when you have this, okay, what could be the recipe for your SEO success today, but tomorrow and after as well? So if we think about it, we have 3 steps to follow. And the first one is how to prepare your raw ingredients to have a really clean technical website. So what are the technical elements that are so important today, but also for the future, and to discuss with your developers. A second one is really how, based on these foundations for technical elements, mix the ingredients to have a unique and tasty content for your audience. So that's really important, and it's evolving a lot. Google is evolving and learning, and with some innovation that we'll see. And lastly, it's nice to have the good content, but how can it be interesting? How to have a great presentation of your dish so that Google will take it into consideration and make sure to have the visibility you deserve. So that's really the 3 steps I will further develop now. And the first one, if you want to do a great dish, you need to give good ingredients, good raw food. And so this is what technical is the foundation for everything. Earlier this year, the Core Web Vitals update, as they call it at Google, came after the page experience signals a bit 1 or 2 years ago. And what does it mean? It's really Google is focusing a lot on how can we have a better experience on mobile. And so they want that the websites are fast, that they are that the content is really coming really fast for the users. It's important so that as more than 60% of the people are, 60% of searches are done on mobile, now Google says, okay, this is where we should focus and push even more the website owners to adapt their website and be more mobile friendly, I would say. And thinking about this, just 2 weeks ago, Google announced an innovation for mobile, and for example, there will be it will be a continuous scrolling. So you have no more a second page, a third page for mobile. It's just it will continuously scroll. Not yet available in Belgium, but the button that we used to have, like the see more on the bottom, it will never happen anymore. So I think it's a big step ahead for SEO, because no more hats on the bottom of the mobile results page, but also the website that appeared in the past in position 11, 12, 13 and further will have more visibility, more clicks. And what Google is trying to do is also to have results that are really personalized with many interactions, videos, images, to have a good interaction and answer to the needs of the users. So it was announced 2 weeks ago, coming in the US really fast, a bit later in Europe, as unfortunately it happens often. But when you think about going fast on mobile, it's not only for SEO, but also for your conversion rate. So the faster your website is, the more it will convert, and the more business it will give you. And this is also a good sign for Google. What they see is that the growth in terms of people searching on Google is coming from mobile. If the websites are slow on mobile, are not converting, this means the advertisers will invest less on mobile. So Google say, okay, let's push with SEO as well mobile websites and best practices, so that we can have maybe even more revenues in the end. So clearly, the faster you can go with a content delivery network, with an optimization of your code, of database queries and so on, it helps really to have better results. if we continue with, for this, we call the crawlers, so the robots of Google who are coming on your website to check your content every day, every hour, every minute. If you have if you are a really large website, to check what's your content, you should clearly have a good structure, and to avoid any technical issues with JavaScript, for among others. We use different tools to check this on our customers' website, but it's really important to think about having a clear structure that will help the people to index, the robots to index your content. And last element I wanted to cover for the technical part, it's really about structured data. I'm sure you have seen this position 0 or this content that is coming when you type something, and directly you have the answer you want it. And that's possible to some snippets that you had on your code, and you have many of them, so that Google can better understand what you have in your code. So you have plenty of different snippets you can use to help Google really say, okay, this is the name of the author of an article, this is a picture for a recipe, these are the ingredients, and so on and so on. And you have a full search gallery where you can have all the structured data that you can apply to your website based on your business. Here an example with local businesses to explain to Google when you are open, some news and so on, some recipes for Halloween on Sunday, to have also some videos that will have extra visibility and give better information for Google to have it. So it will give you extra visibility and so more traffic to your website, because the click-through rate will be higher if you have these extra visibility with images or with a special link, special UX. You can have it also for a Q&A, for products on an e-commerce website, for articles on your blog, for plenty of things. And so for sure, you can check the search gallery on Google to find out, or we can discuss it for sure. Now that we have covered this first part, that you have your ingredients ready, well cut and peeled, how can we make them unique to create a nice dish that will attract your audience and so have more traffic, more conversions, more business for you? First, it's really to understand the intention, and what we see from Google is really to go from a search engine to an answer engine. So it's really how Google is trying with the structured data, with everything, to have the answer already in the results and simplify the queries that people could have for micro moments. So you have a question and directly you have the answer. Okay, maybe less traffic for you on your website, but at the end, more people will come on Google. And if we think about this question, is tomato a fruit or not? Google has directly the answer. So this is thanks to structured data and also trying to understand the query. This is a simple one, but this is just the beginning. And if we look at the latest search conference Google did 1 month ago, they have a yearly event called Search On, and where they explain what are the latest search innovations, what they will do in the future to improve the experience, the way they personalize search to meet better the needs of the users. And for that, they introduce a new algorithm called MUM, or Multitask Unified Model. It's quite a nice acronym, but to explain really, this technology is driven by AI. Over the last 2-3 years, we have seen many improvements thanks to artificial intelligence, and this is one of Google is trying to push. And okay, it can better manage complex tasks. For example, if you want to plan your next trip for your holidays, okay, you will have not one query, but maybe 10, 20, 30, and based on that, it will recommend better answers, better results to simplify this complex task. And one could be, okay, I have 10 ingredients in my fridge. What could be the nice recipe for that? And they do it not only in English, but in most of the languages. And what is really important for Google is to go not only on text, but also on images. This is what will come within the coming months with MUM algorithm. And later they will add audio and video as well. An example is maybe clearer. I hope it will work. Yes. So that you can select from a picture and say, I want socks that have the same visuals, than the same pattern than the ones on this picture, and directly Google will be able to show it, because they really understand a lot better the intent and the pictures behind it. Another one is you take a picture, and based on that, without knowing that it's a derailleur, you will get results on how to fix it if you have an issue with videos, with content. So these are the innovations that Google is working now, and that will come even more in the future. And so clearly what we see is that Google is trying to give more ways to find your information among the billions of websites you have online. It's really impressive to see those innovations coming, and it will come also for our videos later on. And what's the impact for your website, for your business? Clearly, you could go in a recipe book for SEO. You will not find them, because it's you have to adapt and improve them along the way with what Google is doing. But clearly, we can already give some recommendations on how to tackle those changes for the coming years. And a first one is clearly to have longer and multi-type contents, so meaning contents with more than 1,000 words, covering a full topic on its own, and giving what is really important is not the quantity, but the quality. To have one topic that you will cover with all the different aspects, and so that Google will see, okay, this page has interesting and relevant content, mixing text, images, videos, and so on. And for example, on the left, you have an article that we wrote a few years ago on LinkedIn. Many words, many really covering it, and more than 500 sessions a year for us. And you can have multiple articles or content on your website that you will develop to have this opportunity to rank better. And when you are in a very competitive market, one content will not be enough. So you need to have this good website architecture that will cover maybe multiple contents, multiple pages are on one specific content, so that your main page will rank really well. But it takes time, it's a lot of effort, and what we see that content is even more important than before in terms of SEO. And so the challenge is to scale, not to be a craftsman in cuisine, to scale and to have a planned production. So that's really important. And how can you scale it so that you can produce many content more easily and better match the needs of your audience? I would give 2 tips. The first one is really to start from your persona, from your audience. I think it's clear from the beginning. But also for those persona, think about, okay, who can give insights on what the people are searching, from your sales, your marketing, your customer support, from people on the field, to explore and find ideas of content to publish. Also have an internal calendar with a seasonality to take into account. And if you type and write content thinking about your persona, I'm sure it will convert more. And we are here for a marathon, so we have to publish once a week, once every 2 weeks, multiple times per week, to make sure that we have a good rhythm and that we can follow it. And for sure, measure, improve, because you will see that some content are performing, others not, are performing in terms of sessions, in terms of new lead generation. So that's important to learn. And I think that the case of Bell Robotics will explain it with this specific B2B audience that you are targeting. Another topic, again, artificial intelligence. But we have seen, and we are doing some tests now, to have content generation with artificial intelligence. There is a specific algorithm called GPT-3 for generative pre-trained transformer tree algorithm, so a bit complex, from an open source company in the US called OpenAI. And really, they launched it last year, but since then, the production of content that you can have in English, in French, in Dutch, in major languages is really did a big step ahead, so that they produce human texts that are really powerful. We see very good usage of that for large e-commerce websites to automate some production of products list, products description, for classified ads website, for local shops, where if you have one shop, how can you create content for those content for each shop based on this? Still, we need to proofread to make sure that it makes sense, it's consistent, that it makes sense for a human, but it will save you time because you will have to rewrite, not start from scratch. And it can save you really at least 50% of the time for those content that is less, I would say, added value for the users, but lots of added value for SEO purpose. So really looking for what will happen in the coming months and years to exploit this for large websites, but interesting opportunity to consider. Now that you have this content, that you have create this dish, but how can you make it Instagrammable, let's say? That, in other words, that you are visible in search engines. That's another story. And for that, Google comes with their search quality team. They invented this acronym called EAT to fight really fake news, but also to promote the quality content. And EAT stands for expertise, produce content with authority and with trust. So any content that you will have and appear in search results should come from someone who is expert, with some authority, or that we can trust. It's the guy who wrote it or the website behind it with the trust that we can have. And so it can vary from one sector to another. If you have a content in politics, in finance, in health, for sure you need to have a very good authority. And so a news website or a government website will rank very high. It will be very difficult for a, I would say, commercial website to stand out, but there are many other sectors, like recipe, cooking, where you can stand out, and more business subjects. And when taking this into account, the factors that will influence it is really, is there a benefit for the users with the content of this page? That's why longer content that will be exhaustive and that will give the full view of a certain topic will rank better. And the content quality and quantity for sure, and also this reputation of the author. And it's constantly evolving. For sure, you don't need to be the Peter Goossens of this world, a three-star chef in Flanders from of Van Cleve, but you can try to build the content and be an expert in your niche. Don't try to be an expert in everything, but in your niche, and Google will see it. And if you think how to really make it better, first is to get backlinks, but only backlinks, but also mentions. So there is a patent from Google that says that even a mention in the news, in a news article without backlinks, will already give you a positive signal on your brand, on your website, to say, this is interesting, they are in the news, we know it, we see it multiple times. It's not the small company someone created in the middle of nowhere. So that helps, and you can do partnership, you can have events, webinars, create good resources that the people will talk about it. The second one is, also another patent also, is that continue to try to have reviews from your customers, either for sure on Google, but also on social media, on Trustpilot for e-commerce, that's often used, on TripAdvisor, on many websites. It will give other signals to Google that you are an expert, that you have the authority, and you can trust you. A third one is really to ask maybe guest bloggers to come on your website, and so that those people who have an authority could benefit, you could benefit from them. Make sure to have some microdata, some structured data around it to make sure that Google understands that this is from an author that is interesting in your field. And lastly, for sure, you can be more creative in terms of PR. What can you do to have some studies, some elements that will speak about your brand? And at the end, what we want is really to have the people talking about your brand. And that's really important. And so the last one, for example, at Universem, I'm sure you will hear about us the coming weeks with a GDPR study that is coming. And I'm sure it will give us some extra authority for this subject in the eyes of Google, but also you as customers, that's for sure. When we think about everything, we have prepared the meal, and we want to serve it now and add a pinch of salt. And so to conclude it, I would say Google is going from a search to an answer engine, but even more to an advice engine. So when they launch MUM, it's really to help and support the users to find their information. So as a company, if you can support your prospect, your customers online, it's a good tip for the future. We have seen many possibilities for artificial intelligence. I think it's only the beginning. It doesn't require a lot of effort for some of the tools to use them, but please, there are opportunities there for you. A third one is, we speak about it for years, but it will still be the case in the future. Think about your the mobile, but also your users. And also think on how can you make the changes for your technical websites, not every year, every 6 months, but more regularly, to have this agility that will make a difference on the long term, to test and learn along the way. And finally, your content is your best SEO asset for now, later, and further. So that was a bit my recipe for SEO success for the coming years. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any question, I will be happy to answer them now or later during the breaks.
Getting content into position 0, how does that help us as a website or our company and not Google, because we're not driving traffic?
What's important is that the position 0, you could be in position 0 and position 1. So what is position 0 is that you have this extra visibility. Okay, if it's a query like is a tomato a fruit, you will not get extra traffic, but I don't think that you will get extra business from it as well. But it helps you to have some authority because the people will see your brand. Okay, it can be very short, but it can be an additional element. You can have more traffic than you can imagine if you are in position 0. Okay, Google will give you some information, but often the people will like to click and go to your website. So you can be in position 0 and position 1, and so have a share of voice. I would say a percentage of the people who will type this query will land on your website that is even higher. So the click-through rate on the position 0, I don't have any figures in mind, but it's clearly much higher than normal results.
Thank you.
Is it a good idea or no to have two different websites, a part of the website, one for the SEO, one for the SEA, or to use, or is it good to use a SEO optimized web page for landing page? What is your advice about the two?
I would say it's a perfect transition for the next talk with Jean-Francis. But
yeah, some slides for you later.
Ah, okay, I wait, don't answer.
yeah, but I'm sure that no teasing, so perfect. Yes?
About artificial intelligence, how will it help companies with a niche market? Will it also be suitable for that? Or is it just for companies that sell like not really random product, but like more common products?
What we see, and if we speak about content production, if you have a product for B2C, like MediaMarkt, for example, clearly it will be faster to have good results with AI for content production. In B2B, it will require some time, but I'm sure the tools are, it's really about machine learning. So they will learn from the content, and Google will, the tools, I would say advanced, but not yet today, but the future, will learn from the changes you do. So the machine learning algorithm, the idea is that they try produce content, or they try to produce something, and based on that you will see this is correct, this is not correct. They will learn about it, even from your niche. And for the enterprise tools, you will be able to give some keywords or topics around your niche that they can use as a basis to build the rest. And so you can start from a small niche to build it for this content. But it will take some time, but it will come and will be more, I would say, broader focus. No more questions?
Okay,
Perfect.
if we don't have any more questions, then I would like to thank you very much, Hubert, for your...
Thanks, and enjoy your SEO journey this afternoon.
Okay, thanks.